Chapter 539. There's also magic protection. No wonder it hasn't been discovered for so long. It seems that there's still something in this ancient ruin. Sullen's eyes lit up when he heard that there was magic protection. If there was magic protection, it meant that no one had entered the ruin for thousands of years. It was likely that there were many things left behind by the ancient arcanists. If they could find some precious information, it would be a big gain. I don't need to tell you how valuable an undamaged ruin is. Let's go, Alex said impatiently. We still have to be careful. There's a powerful monster in there. Sulen waved his hand. He wasn't impulsive. Besides, many things in the unexcavated ancient ruins could be traced back to the era of the Arcane Empire. Hathaway was the one who had the deepest understanding of the Arcane Empire in Northtown City. It was necessary to take Hathaway with him. Okay. That's right, I also met 2 warrior monks this time. Alex suddenly recalled. Monks? Sulen was slightly stunned. What are monks doing in the city hall? They came with the adventurers who found the ruin. They said they wanted to see you, Alex said with a shrug. Sulen was also curious about the monks' arrival. When he heard that the monks came with the adventurers who found the ruin, he seemed to understand something. Monks were a very special profession. In the beginning, this profession was only found in the eastern continent. Later, after the sea route was opened, many people traveled to the eastern continent. This profession gradually spread to the western continent. Martial monks had mastered a type of transcendent power called qi. Although this power was not as powerful as magic, it had a deep impact on other professions. For example, the advanced professions of warriors, weapon masters, and sword masters were all influenced by monks. Among them, the sword master's signature move, Qi Chop, was a special application of qi. Wizards were very interested in the meditation methods of the monks. After combining them with the meditation methods of the monks, the wizards' meditation methods had undergone a huge change. Druids were very interested in the monks' philosophy of the unity of man and nature, so they derived a kind of nature's heart. However, this was not the reason why Sulen paid special attention to monks. It was because they often suppressed powerful evil creatures. Monks had a special kind of power. Their spirit power was very strong. Usually, they would suppress ancient monsters in the monastery. Ancient evil creatures were very difficult to kill. Many of them were sealed, and martial monks were responsible for suppressing these monsters. It was said that if all of the ancient evil creatures suppressed by the monk were released, their power could possibly destroy the entire continent. Of course, the monks who could suppress these monsters couldn't be just anyone. They had to be legendary-level monks. Part of a monk's power came from cultivation, while the other part came from receiving precepts. The more precepts a monk received, the more powerful they would be. These precepts were very strict, and the strength of a monk was directly related to the number of precepts they received. Under normal circumstances, ordinary monks would receive 2 major precepts and 4 or 5 minor precepts. Only ascetic monks would receive more precepts, and ascetics who were at a higher level than ascetic monks were even more powerful. Every year, many monks would participate in the ascetic test, but in the end, only a few passed. As for becoming an ascetic, it was even more pitiful. Many people couldn't stand the precepts of ascetics and broke them. In the end, they could only become ordinary monks. Let them in. Sulen agreed to meet these monks. Soon, 2 monks arrived at the astrology platform. The 2 monks wore shabby hemp clothes. The clothes were a little white, and their faces were solemn. Their arms and legs were exposed, and Sulen could clearly see that there were many old wounds on them. They wore tattered straw sandals, and their hands were full of thick calluses. You are ascetics? Seeing the 2 monks' attire, Sulen's eyes narrowed. Yes, Your Highness. Hello. The leading monk put his hands together and said, I am Ming Su, and this is my junior brother Ming Tan. We are here for the monsters in the ruins. You are going to suppress the monsters in the ruins? Sulen asked. Yes, Your Highness, Ming Su said. Sorry, but I want to kill that monster. Sulan shook his head and said. Kill that monster? Ming Su was stunned for a moment, then said, Your Highness, you should know that those monsters are difficult to deal with. They can't be killed by normal means. I am going to try. If it doesn't work, then we will talk about it. Sulan shook his head and said. How could he let go of such a monster? This place was too close to the northern citadel, and he didn't feel safe sealing them here. Although Sulan rejected the two ascetics' request, he still invited them to go with him to the hidden realm. After all, they were two high-grade monks, and their combat strength was quite strong. When Hathaway recovered from her injuries, Sulan had been waiting for a long time. After Hathaway came out of seclusion, he immediately prepared to leave with his people. This time, the people of the northern citadel set off in groups. Sulan, Hathaway, Alex, Karina, and the two monks went directly to the astrology platform. With a flash of light, everyone came to a wasteland very close to the ruins. After coming here, Sulan clearly felt that something was different. Not far ahead, there was an area that was somewhat different from the real world. Although it looked similar, in his perception, it was like a layer of illusion. According to the external factors and the interference of the distorted energy, this should be a magic barrier. What he saw now should be the camouflage of a magic barrier. In Sulan's eyes, this camouflage was about 80% similar to the real world. Basically, many buildings were projected here. This barrier simulated the terrain and environment closest to the real world, which was more than 95% similar. There was also a layer of fog in the surroundings. With this layer of fog, this area looked even more real. After coming here, Sulan saw many monsters hiding in the fog. These were ordinary beasts and violent beasts that had mutated under the power of the hidden realm and became a new kind of monster. Mutated monster, challenge rating 7. Sulan even felt that there were many more powerful mutated monsters in the fog. These mutated monsters must have mutated under the power of the hidden realm and become stronger. Chapter 540. Mutated monsters were normal beasts and ferocious beasts that had mutated under the radiation of the secret realm. To be honest, Sulan could kill a monster of this level with one hand. However, it was still very dangerous for normal people. Moreover, there were too many of these monsters. Hathaway looked at the fog around them and frowned slightly. Then, she waved the magic staff in her hand and a ray of light flashed across her body. Dispel the fog. Powerful mana fluctuations instantly swept over, and the dense fog that had originally shrouded the surroundings quickly dissipated like snow. It only took a few breaths of time for the fog to completely dissipate. As the fog dissipated, the mutated monsters that were hiding in it were immediately exposed. Wild wind blade dance. Alex flapped her wings twice and a gust of wind elemental energy flew out from her body. This wind elemental energy turned into a gust of wind in the blink of an eye. In the next second, dozens of wind blades spun and flew towards the mutated monsters. As the wind blades swept across the area, corpses were everywhere. All of the mutated monsters were cut into countless pieces. None of them could last more than 3 seconds. In just a few breaths, the mutated monsters around them were all wiped out. It's done. Let's go directly. Alex waved her hand and the wind blades that were wreaking havoc began to slowly dissipate. Soon, they turned into a gust of wind and blew away. Only the large number of corpses on the ground and the smell of blood in the air reminded everyone that this place was not safe. Sulan looked at the ruins not far away. There was a strange magic energy surrounding the ruins. It was the ancient ruins that they were looking for. Spatial ripples detected. Spatial ripples detected. The system notification rang in Sulan's ears. This is the power of the mystery lock. Hathaway's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. This secret realm is protected by a layer of mystery lock. You said this is a mystery lock? Then our mission this time? Sulan asked in surprise. As a part-time wizard, he naturally knew how powerful a mystery lock was. If this mystery lock was to stop them, they would have to spend a lot of time. Even dealing with the monsters here would be unpredictable. Hathaway, can you decipher this mystery lock? Sulen asked. Hathaway did not speak. Her eyes were fixed in front of her. Her eyes kept flashing with light. It was obvious that she was casting a spell to observe the mystery lock. Phew. After about half an hour, Hathaway let out a long sigh. The light on her body also slowly dissipated at this moment. How are you feeling? Do you want to have a rest? Suren stepped forward to support Hathaway. Hathaway shook her head slightly, excitement flashing in her eyes. No need. This is my first time seeing a mystery lock, I'm excited. I can't help but Suluan smiled. This is Northern Battlefront City. Since we found it, it's ours. You can do whatever you want with it. There's no need to rush. Hathaway shook her head and said, we won't be able to figure out anything about a legendary rune like the Enigma lock in a short time. Let's get rid of the monsters in this ruin first, then we can study it. Whether or not we can install the Enigma lock on our wizard tower depends on this Enigma lock. Speaking of which, we're in luck. Hathaway smiled. This mystery lock in front of us is not an offensive type. I just observed it briefly and found that it's used to suppress the things inside. This mystery lock is good for us. You're saying that this mystery lock is for the sealed monster in the mystery realm? Sullen's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. At the same time, he raised the danger level of the sealed monster to another level. A monster that made the ancient arcanists so cautious must be very powerful. Yes, the monster we're going to face this time might be something from the legends, Hathaway said seriously. You know, the ancient arcanists even dared to study the gods. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a demon lord sealed in here. A demon lord? That's even better. It's been sealed for thousands of years, and most of its strength must have been wiped out. With the suppression of the plane, it won't be too difficult to kill it completely. By then, the divinity on it will definitely satisfy us. Sulen smiled. I'm just giving an example. In fact, the probability of it being a demon lord is very small. If it's a demon lord's power radiation, it won't be this kind of mutated monster. It should have the characteristics of a demon, Hathaway explained. However, even if it's not a demon lord sealed in here, I still have to be extra careful. Don't worry. Sulen nodded and said in a deep voice. I won't joke with my life. Hathaway continued, the area covered by the mystery of this ancient ruin is not small. On the surface, it looks like it only covers the area in front of us. In fact, this place uses the same technology as the mysterious realm, spatial folding. I estimate that it's at least 30 square kilometers in size, or even bigger. The energy waves of this mystery are weak now. Maybe it doesn't have enough energy. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to find this place. This ruin is probably exposed because the mystery doesn't have enough energy and can't cover it completely. But that's still necessary. If it has enough energy, it won't be easy for us to get in, Hathaway said as they came to the ruins. I've observed it carefully just now. This mystery doesn't have any super long-range attack ability, nor does it have the ability to fight in the air. Its main ability is to suppress the sealed monster, and its secondary ability is to protect, as well as some spatial folding and camouflage. Now that this mystery doesn't have enough energy, even its defense and camouflage effects are about to disappear. Under normal circumstances, the challenge rating of a mystery was 30+. Of course, this was based on the premise that it had enough energy and was maintained well on a daily basis. The mystery in front of them didn't even have enough energy, let alone daily maintenance. However, the mystery still had a terminal defense system. As long as the mystery was still in operation, there would be a mechanical body as the final defense. Thankfully, the main function of this puzzle lock was to deal with the sealed monster. According to the priority order on the puzzle lock, when they appeared together with the sealed monster, the puzzle lock had to prioritize attacking that monster. Only after the sealed monster was dealt with would it attack them. This way, as long as they were careful, the mystery could be of help to them. Of course, considering the current state of the mystery, the help it could provide was limited. Where do we go in? Sulen asked. Wait a minute, I'm looking for the weakest point of the mystery, Hathaway said. Chapter 541. Hathaway took out her wand and chanted a spell. A powerful magic energy slowly appeared. Sulen, Alex, and Karina stood not far away and waited quietly. The magic energy around them quickly gathered. Under Hathaway's control, the powerful energy slowly merged into the mystery lock outside the ruins. A dazzling light flashed, and a spatial crack slowly appeared and expanded. Soon, an exit was forcibly opened in the area around the mystery lock. A cold wind blew, and the negative energy in the surroundings instantly became several times denser. Obviously, the radiation of the monster's power was very serious. Such dense negative energy. There won't be any undead, right? I don't know, but let's go in first. Hathaway said as she stabilized the spatial gate. Sulen stepped into the spatial gate first, and the others followed closely behind. After everyone entered, Hathaway dispersed the spell, and the spatial gate quickly shrank. In the blink of an eye, the mystery lock returned to its original state. After entering the ruins, the surroundings were in ruins. There was a rotten smell in the air, and there were some vague figures floating around in the distance. Those were ghosts. Some monsters in the wilderness had died and turned into wandering ghosts. They were attracted by the dense negative energy here. Sulen frowned. His body flickered, and a surge of lightning energy gushed out from his body. A series of crackling sounds rang out, and the negative energy in the surroundings was instantly swept away. Dispel the undead. Hathaway waved her wand, and a ray of light instantly spread out from her body. Wherever it passed, the negative energy was quickly dispelled. Even the ghosts screamed and disappeared, leaving behind a thumb-sized soul crystal. After dispelling the surrounding undead and fog, a strange building with an ancient style appeared before them. This was a building complex with a completely different style from the current one. All of the buildings were tall and majestic, looking extraordinary. Moreover, there were special magic patterns on the eaves. Metal spears protruded from the rooftops, each embedded with a crystal ball. Magic towers stood in the distance, but due to the lack of energy, the magic light on them had been extinguished. Even further away, there was a magnificent palace. The magic civilization of the ancient arcanists was very strong, and they had completely solved the problem of basic material life. Moreover, they had entered the interstellar era, so this kind of magnificent palace was very common. Many of these buildings were enchanted with hardening spells when they were built. After thousands of years, most of these buildings were still intact. Looks like we're in luck, Sulen said happily when he saw the well-preserved buildings. What's that? Alex suddenly said. Sulen turned around and saw a stone tablet as tall as a person. There seemed to be many words carved on it. After seeing the stone tablet, everyone hurried over to take a look. This is the language of the ancient arcanists. Ancient Netherese. Hathaway said after identifying it. Ferris Laboratory, the Wisdom Tower in the north, the Eye of Anaris. Laboratory? Sulen frowned. This didn't seem to be an ordinary ruin. Sulen and Hathaway didn't delay and continued to walk into the ruin. Crack. Sulen immediately stopped and looked around. Soon, there was a continuous cracking sound. Sulen found the source of the sound. It was coming from under the soil in front of them. Under the soil? Sulen, who was rich in battle experience, immediately knew what it was. He said to the girls beside him, "Be careful, there are undead below. They smell the scent of living people on us." There was a flash of light on their bodies, and they directly used fly to fly into the air. As soon as they flew, the originally flat ground around them suddenly arched up, quickly forming small graves. Then the graves broke, and skeletons crawled out from the ground. Skeletal undead. These skeletal undead were different from ordinary undead. They were about 2 meters tall, and their bones had changed from the pale white of ordinary skeletons to gray. There was also a metallic luster on them. The bones in their arms had been twisted and mutated, turning into sharp bone blades. At a glance, one could tell that these were dangerous monsters. Skeletal Undead Challenge Level 11-inch Undead Intimidate. Flaming Storm. The skeletal undead that had just appeared suddenly became stiff and couldn't move. Then, a powerful fire element rose up, and countless flames like a storm engulfed all the skeletal undead. The flames burned, and the undead's aura constantly emitted from the skeletal undead, which then sizzled with the surrounding flames. Soon, the raging flame storm dissipated, and all the skeletal undead disappeared, leaving behind a pile of ash on the ground. All the skeletal undead had been thoroughly purified. After a simple sweep of the battlefield, the skeletal undead were poor. It could be said that more than 90% of the undead were poor. Su Luan only found some soul crystals among the ashes. After cleaning up the battlefield, Su Len and the others walked into the ruins again. Soon, they arrived near a dilapidated building. This was already the periphery of the ruins, and there were many dilapidated buildings nearby. Su Len came to a room and gently pushed the door. As soon as he touched the door, it turned into ashes. Cough cough. Sullen's body flashed, and a protective shield rose, blocking all the dust. When the dust dissipated, he entered the room, but he was soon disappointed. This was not an important place. There was no magic protection around, and the things inside had long decayed after thousands of years. There was nothing valuable. The group spread out and searched these rooms. Only Alex was lucky enough to find a few magic gems, and then nothing else. After confirming that there was nothing else, the group continued to search the ruins. This ruin was very dilapidated, and most of the things had completely decayed. Only a few things were still preserved. As they continued to go deeper, Su Len came to the wizard tower at the outermost edge. Seeing the wizard tower in front of him, Sullen's heart was burning. These wizard towers should be auxiliary towers of the central wizard tower, about 50 meters tall. This was a common method used by ancient arcanists. After building a main tower, they would build auxiliary towers around it. The auxiliary towers were usually used as energy nodes. They did not have an independent energy network, and they were attached to the energy network of the main tower. Under normal circumstances, they were the residences of arcanists' apprentices, disciples, and followers, and areas where they did experiments. They had part of the function of the main wizard tower. Chapter 542. There's no energy here, Hathaway said as she looked at the wizard tower in front of her. That is to say, more than 90% of the defense facilities inside, including the runic array, have stopped working. Isn't that better? It saves us a lot of trouble, Su Len said with a smile. Let's go in and have a look. Everyone cast a protective spell, and then Su Len stepped in first. No one had come to this wizard tower for thousands of years. As soon as the door was pushed open, a thick layer of dust was stirred up. Su Len frowned. A gust of wind blew in through the door, and after a few seconds, it flew out of the door with a lot of dust. Su Len entered the wizard tower. Because there was no energy, the wizard tower was dark. Su Len snapped his fingers, and a soft ball of light appeared, illuminating the whole space. The hall of the wizard tower looked dilapidated, but from the dim decorations and rotten furniture, one could still see how luxurious it used to be. The crystal chandelier in the hall had been smashed to the ground, and the carpet under their feet had decayed into a black mass. Many glassware had been broken, and the inlaid gold foil had lost its luster. It seemed to have no value at all. Su Len didn't stay here for long. There was basically nothing to be gained in the hall. He simply identified the direction and walked upstairs. The second floor of the wizard tower was a rest area. Several people searched different rooms, but they didn't find anything valuable except decayed things. The wizards who originally lived here seemed to have left in a hurry. The room looked very messy, but the valuable items had been taken away. Several people searched, but except for some arcane gold coins and a few magic props that had lost their magic power, there was nothing else. Su Len continued to search the upper floor of the wizard tower, and soon the group came to the top of the wizard tower. As soon as they arrived, Sullen's body slightly stagnated, and then he recovered. The scene in front of him surprised him. At the top of the wizard tower was a laboratory. Although thousands of years had passed, it could still be seen that this was a high-end alchemy laboratory. There was a wide test bench and a dazzling array of glassware. Although there was a thick layer of dust, it could still be seen that they were well preserved. In the middle of the laboratory, there was a round cover. The cover looked like a glass cover. It was covered with dust, but they could still see what was inside. In the middle of the glass cover was a table that looked like an operating table. On this table was a tall skeleton. The skeleton's limbs and neck were all locked by metal shackles. This skeleton was not human. It had sharp fangs, thick bones, and horns on its head like a cow's, but much bigger than a cow's horns. Its 2 arms looked like a pair of scorpion's pincers, and there were 2 human-like arms on its chest. Its legs were thick and powerful, similar to the joints of cows and horses. There were 3 sharp toes on each foot, and there was a pair of bone wings on both sides of the spine. Sulen recognized the type of skeleton in front of him at a glance. Not long ago, he had seen many in the abyss. The skeleton in front of him was a demon, and it was a high-grade demon. Judging from the characteristics of its body, it was likely to be a Glabrizu. It was a type of high demon with a challenge rating of level 16 and above. It was a beguiler. It had violet eyes and dark brown and black skin. This type of demon was about 18 feet tall and weighed about 5,500 pounds. Although this type of demon was powerful, it preferred to deceive rather than fight head-on. Of course, once the deceit failed or was exposed, this kind of demon would fly into a rage out of humiliation and directly launch a fierce attack. This kind of demon could perform a wish spell for a mortal once, so they often used this ability to fulfill any wish of a mortal. However, the price was often extremely high, and of course, the result of this wish would not be too good. Compared to other demons, Glabrizu were experts in deception and lying. They would use illusion to hide their true appearance and use all kinds of lies and tricks to trick people. This demon was like a bailer, and it was often used as a commander in the demon army. The master of this wizard tower is not simple. A gust of wind element flew by, and the dust on the glass cover was blown away. The situation inside was completely exposed. A Glabrizu. This may be the only Glabrizu I've seen that was starved to death. Sulen looked at the skeleton in front of him and said with a smile. It may also be the longest-lived Glabrizu. Hathaway joked. Although demons usually had a lifespan of thousands of years, so far, there was no demon in the multiverse that died of old age. This should be a demon that was caught or summoned by the master of the wizard tower, and then forcibly imprisoned here for research. Hathaway stepped forward and looked at the demon in the glass cover. It is said that in the era of the Arcane Empire, the Arcanists even occupied a few layers of the abyss and turned them into their colonies. Maybe this demon was caught and sold here. But no matter what, this shows that the ruins we are in now are very dangerous. Hathaway, can you open this glass cover? Sulen reached out and knocked on the glass cover twice. The glass cover made a knocking sound. The quality of the cover was very good, and it was used by the Arcanists to imprison demons. One could imagine how strong this cover was. Let me look for it. Hathaway looked around for a while and finally found an open button on the experiment table, but after pressing it, the glass cover did not open. Looks like it's not this button. After waiting for a while and nothing happened, Alex shrugged and said, No, the energy here has long been exhausted, so even if there is an open button, the cover will not open. Sulen observed in front of the glass cover for a while and then a flash of light flashed on his body. He reached out and slightly exerted force on the glass cover, and a squeaking mechanical sound was heard. This sound was like the sound of a door shaft that had not been lubricated for decades. It was hoarse and unpleasant. Sulen slowly lifted the glass cover and the squeaking sound. With a click, the glass cover was completely opened. Sulen came to the operation table and picked up a demon skeleton to check. It's useless. After a while, Sulen threw away the demon skeleton in his hand with disappointment. It's been too long. The magic on these bones has completely dissipated, and they have become ordinary bones. There is no use at all. Chapter 543. The body of a high-grade demon was a precious magic material. Although it was a pity that the materials in front of them had lost their effect, there was still one thing that was not damaged, which was the operation table and the glass cover that trapped the demon. These two things could suppress a high-grade demon like the Glabrizu until it starved to death. One could imagine how sturdy and powerful it was. It was great for imprisoning enemies or something similar. This thing is not bad. Let's take it back. Sulen knocked on the metal table and said. Next, everyone turned the entire laboratory upside down. Other than a well-preserved experiment record, the only things left were the experimental equipment. The experiment record was a relatively important thing. The paper used was processed parchment. This kind of parchment was expensive and could be stored for a long time. It was a very good recording material. A research report was recorded on it. Research report on the body structure, resistance, and bloodline of the Glabrizu. It recorded detailed information about the Glabrizu, as well as their weaknesses, preferences, body structure diagram, blood, and so on. Looking at the research report, Sulen looked at the demon that had turned into a skeleton with pity. What a good comrade. He used his life to provide us with such detailed experiment data. You are like a candle, lighting yourself up to illuminate others, paving the way for the research of spells. After spending some time carefully removing the binding table and the glass cover, Sulen and the others continued to leave the wizard tower. Sulen, look over there. As soon as they left the wizard tower, Karina suddenly pointed at a patch of plants in the darkness not far away and said, "Those plants look a bit strange." Plants? Sulen's heart skipped a beat. He turned around and looked. The plants that grew in this place were usually magical plants. It was very likely that the ancient arcanists had left behind a herb field. The light spell dispelled the darkness, and the plants gradually became visible. They looked a bit familiar. They looked like piranha flowers, but unlike piranha flowers, they looked like they had been pruned. These magical plants grew in fixed areas, giving Sulen the feeling that they were in the back garden of a villa. After approaching, Sulen's eyes lit up. There were still many fruits hanging on these magical plants. It was obvious that they had ripened and no one had picked them yet. Since he had encountered them, Sulen was naturally not going to let them go. Sensing the approach of a living creature, the man-eating flowers awoke from their slumber. However, Hathaway immediately cast hypnosis on them, causing them to fall asleep once more. The fruits of the man-eating flowers could be used to concoct life potions. The fruits before her were enough to concoct a dozen or so bottles. Ancient arcanists liked to plant carnivorous plants such as flesh thorns, man-eating flowers, and magic willows at the borders of their manors or wizard towers. They would kill any animals or humans that trespassed here. After collecting the fruits, the group once again ventured into the depths of the ruins. The path beneath their feet was filled with cracks, and many places were severely damaged. However, they could vaguely see that these paths were more than 10 meters wide. The buildings on both sides of the road were not spared either. All the well-preserved buildings were cleaned up. Although they didn't find anything too precious, the harvest was still good. Soon, the group arrived in front of the tall wizard tower in the center of the secret realm. The wizard tower in front of them was more than 150 meters high, and its whole body was black and brown. The entire wizard tower was built entirely with obsidian, and it was also blessed with hardening magic. Such a wizard tower was completely designed according to the standards of a floating space tower. Seeing this wizard tower, everyone's eyes were burning with passion. Under normal circumstances, this was the most important and easiest place to obtain precious information or items in the entire ruins. However, in the face of the treasure trove in front of him, Sulen did not act rashly. This was because this was the only wizard tower in the entire secret realm that could still function normally. At the same time, the core of the layer of mystery outside the ruins was also here. Can Hathaway crack it? Sulen asked in a low voice. Hathaway's eyes were fixed on the wizard tower in front of her. If there is enough energy here, it's basically impossible to break it by force. In this situation, it's naturally not a problem for me. Just wait a moment. Soon, Hathaway's body flashed, and a ray of light was instantly stimulated from her body, instantly hitting the layer of energy barrier outside the wizard tower. The originally dim energy barrier flickered quickly a few times, and a hole was quickly broken. Advanced Dispel Magic. At the moment when the energy barrier was broken, Su Len immediately flew in. At the same time, at the top of the wizard tower, a purple magic crystal flickered slightly, and then a window on the wizard tower suddenly opened, and then a magic energy construct was activated. The red light in its eyes lit up, and this was obviously a special magic energy construct at the legendary level, and it was quickly activated. This golem puppet's appearance was bright silver, and there were many beautiful runes on it. There were many amethysts on its body structure, but before it was completely activated, Su Len threw a maze spell over, and the golem puppet that was activating disappeared in an instant. The maze spell was very effective in trapping people. As long as it did not pass the test, it would be forcibly transmitted to a different dimension space maze, and could only return through the maze, or wait until the spell expired. Under normal circumstances, the higher the intelligence, the faster the return, but for the Tauren, this spell was ineffective. After dealing with this legendary golem, the others followed in. Sullen's figure rushed in quickly. They had to save time and seize the control center of the wizard tower as quickly as possible. An energy barrier appeared on the surface of his body, followed by a few flashes of light. Su Len did not slow down, and quickly rushed toward the wizard. Intruder detected. Activate the mystery protection. Activate the defense form. Activate the golem puppet. A mechanical sound rang out, followed by a series of energy beams filled with the aura of death quickly flew toward Su Len, and then 3 golem puppets walked out of the door. Lightning Spear. Three lightning bolts instantly appeared in midair, and in the next second, these lightning bolts turned into 3 spears completely composed of lightning energy. The lightning flashed and instantly hit the golem puppets. These 3 golem puppets that had been sealed for a long time trembled violently, and then suddenly stopped. Good luck, there is really no energy here, these golem puppets can't even repair themselves. This ruin had been sealed for thousands of years, and it lacked energy to maintain it. It was a miracle that these golem puppets could still move, and there was no hope for them to perform better. Chapter 544. Once Su Len entered the main wizard tower, he needed to race against time. Due to the lack of energy in other parts of the ruins, all kinds of protective spells and golems had been shut down. However, as the most important wizard tower in the ruins, all the energy would be supplied here first. Sullen's actions would make the wizard tower's spirit think that the wizard tower was invaded. The wizard tower's combat mode would be activated, and the golems in the wizard tower would be awakened. This was not good news for Su Len. How many golems were there in a wizard tower? This was directly proportional to the wealth of the wizard tower's owner. Just like the wizard tower in the ruins, the entire ruins belonged to him. With such a large secret realm, it was obvious that the owner of this wizard tower was very rich. Su Len would not be surprised if there was an entire golem legion sealed in his wizard tower. Many wizards were otakus. They would accumulate all kinds of resources like hamsters and then make all kinds of items. The number of golems would also increase over time. If you were fighting with others, having a golem legion would be very comfortable. However, if you were facing a golem legion, trust me, run away as soon as possible. After Su Len rushed in, the wizard tower's defense system had been activated. Although there were only a few golems now, as long as they were given a little time, the golems sealed in the wizard tower would soon rush over in large numbers. At that time, they would have to face hundreds of golems of all kinds. With so many golems attacking together, even a legendary master would have to flee. Fortunately, the space in the wizard tower was limited, and to save energy, most of the golems in the wizard tower were in a state of hibernation. As long as Su Len was fast enough, he could shut down the control center in the wizard tower or take control by force before those golems were all activated. Lightning spears flew out from Sullen's hands and instantly hit those golems that had just been activated. The situation was slightly better than Sulen had imagined. Due to the lack of energy, the golems in the wizard tower were in a state of hibernation. This state could minimize energy consumption. However, the lack of energy maintenance also caused the structure of these golems to age. Thousands of years had passed, and apart from some precious magic materials, the rest of the magic materials would more or less have some problems. When these golems were struck by the lightning spears, the already fragile components of the golems were easily destroyed by the powerful lightning power. Hathaway, Alex, and Karina followed closely behind Sulen. They weren't idle either. Sometimes, when Sulen couldn't deal with a new golem in time, they would immediately attack it with spells. One after another, the steel golems were awakened and then quickly destroyed by the spells. Sulen and the others were very fast. As high-grade wizards, they had all mastered combat spellcasting. They could cast spells while moving quickly without worrying about being interrupted. Even the weaker ones, Alex and Karina, were sorcerers. "Alright, ladies, don't completely destroy these golems." Sulen couldn't help but exclaim as he watched them cast disintegration and turn the steel golems into piles of scrap metal. "These are our spoils of war. After we occupy this place, these golems can still be used after some repairs. After using disintegration, these things will become scrap metal." "Alex, you wastrel." Seeing another steel golem being hit by a ray of light and turned into a pile of scrap metal, Sulen reached out and knocked Alex's head. Sorry, Sulen, I'm used to it." Alex laughed. "Alright, be careful next time." Sulen casually cast a chain of lightning and destroyed a golem that had just appeared. Although he hadn't completely occupied this place, Sulen already saw it as his own. "Host, please pay attention. Domain energy fluctuations detected." A powerful energy instantly spread out from the wizard tower. Sulen only felt that the originally smooth spells had become jerky, as if he had fallen into a quagmire in an instant. "This is energy confinement. The enigma has been activated." Sullen's eyes lit up. It seemed that the tower spirit had sensed the danger. Energy confinement was an ability of the enigma, but it required a lot of energy to use this ability. For a wizard tower that lacked energy, the tower spirit would not activate this ability unless it was absolutely necessary. A ray of lightning flashed, and a powerful lightning energy was instantly released from Sullen's body. A domain that was not inferior to before spread out from his body, and the few women who were originally imprisoned instantly regained control of their magic. After activating the domain, Sullen's power was even more powerful. Soon, the group of people arrived in front of the wizard tower's gate. This gate was made of a silver-white metal. Although it had been there for thousands of years, it didn't seem to be damaged at all. Sulen casually threw a lightning spear, but as the lightning flashed and the lightning energy dissipated, the silver-white gate in front of him didn't move at all. There wasn't even a mark on it. Seeing this, a trace of surprise flashed in Sullen's eyes, but in the next second, the storm halberd appeared in his hand. Lightning spear. The dazzling lightning instantly shrouded the storm halberd, and as a large amount of lightning merged, an invisible torrent of energy quickly gathered around Sulen. The storm halberd was originally completely covered by lightning, and the powerful lightning energy spread to the surroundings, forcing Hathaway and the others to move out of the way. Sullen's warrior robe was also propped up by the static electricity, and more lightning energy was injected into the storm halberd. The powerful energy gathered, and magic weapons that were slightly inferior in quality almost fell apart under this pressure. Even the storm halberd, a legendary weapon, was trembling slightly. It was obviously close to its limit. In the end, the storm halberd that had gathered infinite power was lifted up by Sulen, and in the next second, it fiercely pierced the silver-white metal gate in front of him. Crack. Rumble. The deafening thunder sounded, and the entire wizard tower shook violently, and a powerful energy exploded in an instant. When the light dissipated, the gate in front of them had been completely blown open, and there was a big hole in the gate. Ding! The energy domain has disappeared. The effect of energy imprisonment has been weakened. Sulen panted for a moment, and then directly entered the gate with the storm halberd. On the platform in the center of the hall, a crystal ball was constantly emitting a faint light. It was the host crystal of the tower spirit. Just as Sulen stepped forward and was about to close it, a huge roar came from the other side of the hall. Chapter 545. Bang! Sulen's vision went dark, and he subconsciously swept the storm war halberd across. A huge force came, and he felt as if he had hit steel, and his palm was slightly numb. The black shadow flew backward and quickly stabilized. Only then did Sulen see clearly that it was a strange high-level golem in front of him. Countless runes were engraved on its body, and the light purple magic patterns were like tattoos all over the golem. The golem was 6 meters tall, and its appearance was similar to that of a human. From its appearance, it was obvious that it was a legendary golem, and it was very likely that it had been modified. Guardian activated. Carry out the third battle plan, eliminate all intruders. The golem's eyes flashed red, and it completely locked onto Sulen. Then, a cold mechanical voice sounded. Elemental fission shield activated. Aura/activated. Weakness detection activated. Silver holy sword, legendary, charged. Armor break activated. Sharpness activated. Greater haste activated. With the cold mechanical voice, a huge beheading sword with a silver glow appeared in the golem's hand. Under Suren's dumbfounded expression, the legendary construct in front of him instantly entered the complete state. Don't interfere. I'll deal with it. Sulen immediately said when he saw the golem. This thing was obviously a high-level legendary golem, a killing machine specially used to guard the core of the wizard tower. Apart from Sulen, no one else could withstand this thing's combat power. Greater haste, maximum spell. Greater displacement force field, maximum spell. Greater bear's toughness, maximum spell. Greater bull's strength, maximum spell. Greater fox's cunning, maximum spell. Legendary mage's armor, maximum spell. Weakness detection. A series of spells rose from Sulen's body. Hathaway, Karina, and Alex quickly cast all kinds of spells on Sulen. A bright sword light illuminated Sulen's eyes, and the 6-meter-tall guardian statue in the tower instantly appeared in front of Sulen. The silver sword instantly chopped towards Sulen's neck. Sulen had several energy barriers in front of him, but they were shattered by the guardian golem's sword beam. Finally, they were blocked by the storm battle halberd. The guardian's speed was very fast, and his tall body was unexpectedly agile. The speed of his sword was so fast that it left behind a series of afterimages, slashing towards Sulen's vital parts. Sulen didn't show any weakness. He kept waving the storm halberd in his hand, and his figure moved quickly like a ghost. Bang bang bang. The storm battle halberd and the silver sacred sword kept colliding, and a series of sparks kept appearing. In a short period of time, Sulen and the guardian golem had exchanged dozens of blows. Powerful energy surged in the surroundings. The energy barriers on Sulen's body were all shattered, and even the legendary mage's armor was damaged. The guardian golem wasn't any better. The energy barriers on the surface of its body had dimmed, and scars from the storm battle halberd appeared on its silver body. Thunder slash. Dazzling lightning instantly erupted from Sulen's body, and the storm battle halberd slashed towards the guardian golem with the power of endless lightning. The dazzling lightning completely enveloped the guardian golem's tall body, and a deafening thunder rumbled. In the next second, the guardian golem's tall figure was sent flying. The elemental fission shield that originally covered its body was completely shattered, and the storm battle halberd left a deep mark on the guardian golem's body. Sulen's figure flashed, and in the next second, he appeared beside the guardian golem. The storm battle halberd waved like a windmill and continuously attacked, forcing the guardian golem, who had just stabilized its body, to retreat. What are you waiting for? Hathaway, go and deal with that tower genie. This legendary golem can't be dealt with in a short time. Okay, you hold it back. I'll go and crack the tower genie's core. Hathaway reacted quickly. Although she was shocked by the battle between Su-Len and the golem, she recovered in an instant. Then, while Su-Len was holding the golem back, she began to crack the tower genie's core. Bigby's flying palm. A huge palm appeared out of thin air, and then directly sent the golem flying. Before the guardian golem could stand firm, Sullen's attack had come again. High-grade legendary golems were very difficult to deal with. This thing had high attack, high defense, fast speed, and surprisingly high magic resistance. Although Su-Len was confident that he could tear it down, it would take a long time. This kind of legendary construct golem could be said to have almost no weaknesses. Su-Len didn't want to tear this thing down. After all, not everyone could make a high-level legendary golem. The owner of this wizard tower was at least a high-level legendary existence. A golem of this level could be said to be very precious, and Su-Len couldn't bear to break it. Even Su-Luen could only suppress the guardian golem in front of him. Moreover, this guardian golem was also equipped with the Sword Saint's skills. If an advanced legendary warrior were in his place, the guardian golem would have long since finished him off. If this thing attacked at full strength, it wouldn't be surprising if it killed legendary Su-Len in one strike. In fact, the guardian golem hadn't used its full strength yet. After all, golems made by wizards often needed the assistance of wizards. If it had the cooperation of a legendary wizard, it wouldn't have been a problem to directly kill the Baylor. Aura slash. After seeing Hathaway begin to break the core of the tower spirit, the guardian golem seemed to be anxious. It no longer defended against Sullen's attack. A silver-white sword aura instantly appeared on the 3-meter-long silver-white giant sword in its hand. The sharp sword aura seemed to tear through time and space, and it slashed fiercely toward Su-Len. Boom! Su-Len didn't back down. If he pushed it away, Hathaway would be in danger. The light blue thunder turned into a thunder snake and collided with the sword aura. Then, it disappeared. The guardian golem's body flashed, and in the next second, a sword aura burst out in an instant. Sword Storm. The sword aura was activated, and the tall guardian golem quickly waved the silver sword aura. At this moment, the entire golem turned into a monster that was cutting at high speed. Sullen's face changed, and he subconsciously wanted to leave. However, just as his body was about to move, he immediately reacted. The thunder power in his body instantly poured into his body, and endless thunder continued to explode. Lightning flashed in all directions, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. Su-Luen firmly blocked the guardian golem, but in the face of such a powerful attack, Su-Luen was in a somewhat sorry state. The legendary mage armor on his body had completely disappeared, and even his clothes had become like that of a beggar. Chapter 546. The golems immediately stopped attacking. The guardian golem that was attacking suddenly stopped, and the red light in its 2 crystal eyes disappeared. Su-Luen also breathed a sigh of relief. Hathaway, ask the tower genie where the core of the puzzle is located, Su-Len said in a deep voice. Tower genie, where is the core of the puzzle? The core of the puzzle is at the top of the wizard tower, the tower genie said in a cold mechanical voice. Hathaway was a little confused. Isn't this the top of the wizard tower? Master, this is the 2nd floor of the wizard tower. There is another floor above it, the tower genie continued. This place was built with a spatial folding magic circle. I see. Hathaway nodded and asked the tower genie to open the door. They walked directly to the top of the wizard tower. The top of the wizard tower covered a large area. As soon as they arrived, they saw an enlarged puzzle magic circle. Purple arcane crystals floated quietly in the air. There were countless runes engraved on these crystals. A few silver light beams passed through each arcane crystal. These light beams crisscrossed back and forth like a fishing net, and those arcane crystals were the nodes of the net. Countless runes were engraved on the ground. These runes corresponded to the arcane crystals in the air. The top of the room was also engraved with a large number of runes. Purple gems were embedded in the ceiling, looking like twinkling stars in the night sky. In the center of the room was an elemental pool with a diameter of 5 meters. At this time, there was only a shallow layer of energy water left in the elemental pool. Because it had not been maintained for a long time, many of the runes on the elemental pool had been peeled off and damaged. Naturally, the energy extracted from the 4 elemental realms was gradually decreasing. The blue crystal that was originally floating above the elemental pool had also become dim. They could not help but worry about whether it would fall in the next second. The arcane crystals in the air were like a fishing net. In the end, all the silver light beams were connected to the crystal in front of them. This crystal was the core of the puzzle. Apart from Hathaway, Su Luan, Alex, and Karina were all confused about the riddle. They had no idea how to solve the riddle in front of them. Although Hathaway had mastered the puzzle lock technology, it was her first time seeing a puzzle lock. Fortunately, this puzzle lock had been in operation for thousands of years. No one maintained it. At the same time, its energy had been depleted. Otherwise, it would not be easy to gain control of this puzzle lock. Hathaway stepped forward and a silver glow appeared in her eyes. She tapped the blue crystal gently and a faint ripple spread out from the crystal. Then, a silver glow rose from Hathaway's body. This silver radiance was the embodiment of Hathaway's soul power. Sullen's soul power was now pale gold because he had fused with a large amount of divinity. At this time, whether it was Hathaway or Su Lan, their souls actually already had some immortal characteristics. The lifespan of a legendary wizard was several times longer than that of a legendary warrior. Apart from the fact that wizards could make potions to increase their lifespan, the biggest reason was their soul power. If one only looked at the body of a legendary warrior, they were obviously healthier and more energetic than a wizard. However, the aging of their soul would cause their body to gradually age. On the other hand, wizards were the exact opposite. Hathaway's soul power entered a special space. This space was a huge magic network made up of countless magic nodes. This magic network completely covered the entire ruins. As Hathaway's soul power continued to crack the magic network, one by one, the magic nodes on the magic network were broken and controlled by Hathaway. A huge amount of soul power extended along the entire network. After an unknown amount of time, all the magic nodes were under her control. Hathaway slowly opened her eyes, and a feeling of weakness gushed out of her body. She staggered and was about to fall to the ground. Su Luan's eyes were sharp, and his hands were quick, and he caught her. "How are you? Are you hurt?" Su Lan asked a little anxiously. Hathaway struggled to smile at Su Lan. A touch of exhaustion appeared on her face. "I'm fine. It's just that my soul power has been overused. I'll be fine after some rest. Don't worry. This puzzle is seriously low on energy. Use an energy bottle to replenish it." "Okay." Su Luan nodded and handed Hathaway over to Karina and Alex to take care of. He then took out a palm-sized, beautiful crystal bottle from his storage space and walked to the elemental pool. He opened the cap of the crystal bottle and poured it into the elemental pool. A light blue elemental water slowly flowed out of the bottle. The concentration of elemental water in the room suddenly increased by more than 2 times. The light blue elemental water quickly fell. Soon, a thin layer of elemental water gathered in the almost dry elemental pool. The crystal bottle in Sullen's hand continued to pour the elemental water into the pool. This crystal bottle was an energy bottle made by Hathaway. It could collect the elemental water that overflowed from the elemental pool every day. Since many of the facilities in the Northwind Tower were not complete, the amount of elemental water produced every day far exceeded the Wizard Tower's daily consumption. To avoid wastage, Hathaway specially made some energy bottles. Although the energy bottle in front of Abel was only the size of a palm, it was made with a special spatial technique. The amount of elemental water stored in the bottle could fill up the entire elemental pool. Usually, a portion of the elemental water collected by these energy bottles would be used as energy reserves, while the other portion would be stored as experimental materials. Soon, as more and more elemental water was poured out of the bottle, the elemental pool began to rise at a speed visible to the naked eye. After about half an hour, the elemental pool was completely filled. Chapter 547. Tower Genie, restore the Enigma state and cancel the energy-saving mode, Hathaway ordered after seeing that the elemental pool was full of energy. Then a ray of spiritual light slowly lit up, and the originally dim purple crystal shone brightly at this moment. The spiritual light quickly spread to the surroundings along with the silver light beams. In a flash, the arcane crystals in the air were lit up one by one. The magic gems on the ceiling also lit up slightly, flashing a little bit of starlight. A strange force quickly spread out from here and shrouded the entire ruins in an instant. Outside the ruins that were originally filled with fog suddenly dissipated slowly, and a strange energy swept across. The layer of crumbling camouflage outside the ruins instantly solidified, and at the same time, a spatial force quickly spread out. If one were to look at it from a distance, one would find that the space suddenly looked like a stone thrown into a pool, with countless ripples. If one were to stare at it closely, one would find that with the ripples, the space began to slowly fold, and for a moment, there were countless phantoms, which made one dizzy, but then the phantoms were quickly smoothed out, and finally returned to its original state. Although it seemed that there was no change, in fact, the secret realm had been completely hidden. It's done. If we don't use the power of the Enigma now, the elemental water in the elemental pool can last for a month. Hathaway was not as tired as before after a short rest. The elemental pool here needs to be repaired as soon as possible, and there are other energy channels and rune inscription problems. The things in the ruins also need to be sorted out and repaired as soon as possible. I think we'll face the consequences of being understaffed for a long time. Why wouldn't you want a wizard tower from the Arcane Empire era? Sulen teased and winked at Hathaway, and it could be a floating space tower. By the way, this wizard tower is indeed built according to the floating space tower. Hathaway's eyes lit up, and she directly asked the Tower Genie, this wizard tower can fly, activate the flight mode. Master, the floating space tower has insufficient energy, the flight mode cannot be activated, the Tower Genie's cold mechanical voice sounded. Are the floating space ring and other facilities damaged? Hearing the Tower Genie's words, Hathaway's eyes lit up, and she instantly became energetic. She quickly sat up straight on Alex's body, and there was no trace of her previous weak appearance. The wizard tower is the core area of the entire secret realm, the floating space ring is well preserved, and other overall facilities' damage rate is less than 70%. It needs to be repaired before it can fly, the Tower Genie said coldly. The virtual library of the Sorcerer Tower has the blueprints and information for the construction of the Sorcerer Tower. There is a perfectly preserved floating ring here, Hathaway said in pleasant surprise. The floating space ring was the core component of the floating space tower that could fly. If the floating space city was compared to an airplane, the elemental pool was the fuel tank that provided sufficient energy, and the floating space ring was the engine that provided energy for the airplane. The floating space ring was a glorious achievement of the Arcane Empire era. It could lift the floating space tower, which weighed hundreds of tons, into the sky and fly freely. It could be said to be a very powerful legendary rune. It contained a lot of mathematical Olympiad knowledge. Hathaway only had some incomplete knowledge. Now there was a preserved floating space ring and information, which was good news for Hathaway. Master, you'd better not activate the flight mode, the Tower Genie suddenly reminded her. Why? Hathaway asked with some surprise. The core command left by the previous master was to suppress the things sealed under the wizard tower. Once the wizard tower takes off, the Enigma won't be able to suppress the seal, and the monster will soon break the seal. Sulen and Hathaway looked at each other, and immediately thought of the future she saw not long ago using astrology. What's sealed here? Sulen asked. The Tower Genie did not respond to Sulen's question. Seeing that the Tower Genie ignored him, Sulen was a little embarrassed. Tower Genie, adjust Sulen's authority to the highest. Hathaway was like a little fox who had stolen a chicken, and her beautiful big eyes curved into a crescent moon. Yes, Master. Recording soul fluctuations, backing up information, recording complete. Tower Genie, what's sealed under the Wizard Tower? Sulan asked again. Your Excellency, I don't have the authority to know the monster sealed under the Wizard Tower. According to the 70th resolution of the Supreme Arcane Parliament, this arcane realm is sealed, and the previous master was also imprisoned by the Arcane Parliament. For specific information, you can check the information left by the previous master. Sulan and Hathaway's faces became serious. It was obvious that the monster sealed below was a taboo, and they learned from the Tower Genie that the previous master was actually imprisoned by the Supreme Arcane Parliament. What did this predecessor do? He actually made the Supreme Arcane Parliament intervene directly. The Supreme Arcane Parliament was the highest ruling core of the Arcane Empire. Although the Arcane Empire was called an empire, it was actually a floating space city that was autonomous. The supreme leader of each floating space city was basically a Grand Arcanist, and each floating space city had a seat in the Supreme Arcane Parliament. Usually, everyone did their own thing and did not interfere with each other. Only when a major event occurred, all the floating space city would convene a meeting of the Supreme Arcane Parliament to discuss and make decisions. Although this parliament had great power in name, in reality, it did not care much. The previous master of this Wizard Tower actually made the Supreme Arcane Parliament take action personally. Sulan was curious about what he did at that time. Soon, Sulan asked the Tower Genie to pull out a set of experimental data and began to check it with Hathaway. Arcane Calendar, year 3953, spring. Some of the items in the laboratory have been exhausted. Last month, I traded with the dimensional merchant and spent a lot of money and resources. Suddenly, I found that the money left was not enough to buy materials this month. Forget it, I'll go to the astral world to collect it myself. Year 3958 of the Arcane Calendar, spring. My luck is really good. I found an area rich in materials in the astral plane. It only took me 3 days to collect enough materials to last me 2 months. I'm going to finish collecting here before going back. Arcane Calendar, year 3958, spring, praise the goddess of luck. Today is my lucky day. I swear, today is more exciting than when I was promoted to legendary. I actually found the body of an ancient god in the astral world. I dare say that this is definitely the greatest discovery in the astral world in the last few hundred years. Divinity, artifact, I'm going to become a Grand Arcanist. Chapter 548. Arcane Calendar year 3958, summer. The laboratory I prepared for the ancient god's corpse is finally completed. Next, I can study this corpse without any worries. I can't wait. Arcane Calendar year 3958, summer. The first experiment was a success. I'm a genius. I successfully extracted a bit of divinity from the corpse. This pure golden power looks really charming. Next, I'll try to go into seclusion and completely integrate this divinity into my body. Arcane Calendar year 3958, summer. Damn it, the consciousness left by the ancient god is too powerful. It took me half a month to successfully integrate this divinity into my body. Although the process was a bit tortuous, the result was great. After integrating this divinity, I clearly felt a crack in the previous bottleneck. It seems that my idea was right. Autumn, year 3958 of the Arcane Calendar. Something was not right. There was a different kind of energy in this god's corpse. This energy was entangled with the god's corpse, and they seemed to be showing signs of revival. What the hell? Could it be that this god's corpse, which had been dead for thousands of years, could be revived? Arcane Calendar year 3958, winter. Incredible. The power of divinity is really amazing. It has the power to turn something rotten into something magical. I can use it to make a divine artifact. Materials, I want all kinds of rare materials. I want to make a divine artifact that belongs to me. Arcane Calendar year 3958, winter. Something seems to be wrong. I feel that my consciousness is affected. The number of times I've been angry has obviously increased. Just this morning, I scolded my favorite disciple, Flender. He actually stopped me from absorbing the divinity. Arcane Calendar Year 3959, Spring. The weather today is good. Just now, I successfully broke through level 30 and reached level 31. Now, I'm an astral mage. Also, the power in the corpse has become stronger. I need to find a way to suppress it. Arcane Calendar Year 3959, Spring. Damn it, this is not the original power of the corpse. This power is parasitic in the corpse. It wants to use the corpse of the god to revive. The corpse of the god is mine. I won't let anyone take it away. Arcane Calendar Year 3959, Spring. This power is too strong. I can't suppress it anymore. It's starting to change. I have to find a way to deal with it as soon as possible. Arcane Calendar Year 3959, Spring. Why did the Supreme Arcane Council send a document for inquiry? Could it be that they knew I had obtained the god's corpse? That's impossible. No, I forgot about Flender. That damned bastard, he actually dared to betray his teacher. I'll extract his soul and seal it in the lamp so that his soul will be burned forever. But before that, I have to hide the god's corpse somewhere else. Year 3959 of the Arcana Calendar, Spring. Those annoying special envoys from the Supreme Arcana Council came. He actually said that I was researching the power of the divine sin and violated the ban of the Supreme Arcana Council. What ban? These guys don't understand the greatness of divinity at all. They just covet my god corpse and want to take it from me. I should just chase them out. Arcana Calendar, Year 3959, Spring. The vitality and life force of the god's corpse are getting stronger and stronger. I have to suppress it as soon as possible. Fortunately, I had the help of the Wizard Tower. With the help of the Wizard Tower's power, I successfully suppressed him. Perhaps I should change my way of thinking. Year 3959 of the Arcana Calendar, Spring. Why is the Supreme Arcana Council here again? There's no end to it. This time, I won't meet with them. Negotiating with them is a complete waste of time. The log came to an abrupt end here. Although the log wasn't long and there was a lot of repeated information in it, Su Len still found the information about the things sealed under the floating space tower. It seems that things are a little troublesome. Su Len closed the experiment log, and the expression on his face became a little gloomy. According to the information in the log, the previous master of the Wizard Tower was basically dead, but it was unknown whether he was killed by the divine sin or by the Supreme Arcana Council. Of course, Su Len was more likely to be arrested by the Supreme Arcana Council. If he was killed by the divine sin, then basically nothing would be left in the ruins. Now that the Wizard Tower was intact, it was very likely that it was done by the Supreme Arcana Council. Moreover, through the conversation with the Tower Spirit, he found that the seal here was made by the Supreme Arcana Mathematical Association. After the seal was completed, the Supreme Arcana Council gave up on the secret realm, and everyone was completely evacuated. That was also the reason why the buildings in the secret realm were so intact. Su Len deduced the matter in his mind and was surprised by the previous master of the Wizard Tower's ability to seek death. Not to mention that this guy directly seized the divinity from the god's corpse, he didn't even figure out the divine sin bred in the god's corpse. The divine sin was always born from the god's corpse, and the probability of such things happening was very high. Moreover, he didn't extract the soul of the divine sin to fuse with it after killing it. He was really courageous. He wasn't swallowed up by the negative consciousness of the divine sin, but judging from the experiment log, he was still affected. The ancient arcanists were really bold, and Su Len had to admire them. These arcanists were not even in awe of the gods. Otherwise, how could the Arthas Ascension be created? They actually wanted to seize the power of the gods by force. The ancient arcanists conducted too many dangerous experiments, such as bloodline experiments. Although Su Len didn't conduct in-depth research, the experiment was finally mature after hundreds and thousands of human experiments. In essence, the wizards of today were not much different from the ancient arcanists. They also liked to seek death. The only difference was that after being beaten up, the wizards of today were very cautious and knew how to respect the gods. It was not a big problem for the wizards to have enough curiosity. The key was to know their own strength. If they wanted to study the divine sin, their profession level had to be at least level 40. After all, the divine sin's challenge rating was as high as level 35. Without enough power to suppress the divine sin, it would be suicidal to study it. It seems that there's a high possibility that the divine sin below was born from the god's corpse. However, I don't know how much power this divine sin has left after thousands of years. Sulen held his chin with one hand and rhythmically tapped the table with the other. After being sealed for a long time in an environment with a lack of elements, the power of the divine sin would also decline. If it was at its peak, Sulen definitely wouldn't stay. He would turn around and run without hesitation. After all, it was too difficult to kill, and he might accidentally send himself into the divine sin. Chapter 549. During the period of the Arcane Empire, the most dangerous monsters in the multiverse were counted. The most dangerous ones were the Archean Hatred, the Dragon of Hatred. However, the number of these Archean Hatred was very small. Many of them were sealed or sleeping in some corner of the multiverse. The second-tier monsters were the Abominations. In fact, some people classified the Abominations and the Archean Hatred together. After all, some Abominations were very powerful. The third-tier monsters were the Archean Villains. Usually, the challenge level of the Archean Villains was above level 25. The first Archean Villains were said to be born from the fusion of evil gods and evil forces. The Archean Villains had great power and were very corrosive, but their consciousness was usually very chaotic. The Abomination. Hathaway said with a solemn expression, the power he radiated during this period of time has caused the beast to mutate. It means that his power is recovering. The Wizard Tower has been in disrepair for a long time and is short of energy. He is about to lose control. If we leave him alone and let him recover, it won't take long for this abomination to break free. By then, the whole northern land will be in a disaster. The reason why the Arcane Empire ranked the Abominations and the Archean Hatred at the top was that they had the power to destroy a main material plane. As long as they were given enough time, these monsters could easily destroy a rich plane. It seems that we have to get rid of this abomination, Sulen said in a low voice. The battle of the abomination is very dangerous. Legends can't intervene, so Alex and Karina can only stay here. But Alex and Karina said anxiously, but they were interrupted by Sulen. No buts. Someone needs to guard this place. Besides, you don't even have legends. Are you going to die? At last, under Sulen's suggestion, Alex and Karina finally agreed. After discussing for a while, Sulen said to the Tower Spirit, where is the abomination sealed? Tower Master, you can enter through the passage on the 3rd floor of the Wizard Tower. As the Tower Genie spoke, a three-dimensional image of the Sorcerer Tower appeared beside it. The location of the abomination was clearly marked on it. Sulen and Hathaway checked once to make sure that they had not missed anything. Only then did they walk down to the basement of the Magus Tower. Soon, the two arrived at the basement of the Magus Tower. The closer they got, the denser the negative energy in the surroundings. There was even a layer of gray fog in the basement. Sizzle. Strange noises could be heard, and then some looming figures appeared not far away. Be careful, there should be a lot of undead here. As soon as he finished speaking, a sharp cry rang out. Immediately after, the fog in front of him churned, and bone spears shot rapidly towards Sulen. Following which, dozens of undead appeared in the fog and quickly rushed towards Sulen. Command, intimidate. Group undead hold spell. 2 spiritual lights flashed quickly on Hathaway's body, and the undead that were rushing towards Sulen instantly stopped. In a normal battle, wizards were usually in charge of controlling the field. The real damage output would depend on the Grand Sword Master, especially when the Grand Sword Master cooperated with a wizard. The terrifying lethality of a grand swordmaster was unreasonably strong. Sulen waved his storm battle halberd and whizzed past. All the undead that were controlled by Hathaway were directly chopped into pieces by him. Clang! 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 A large number of soul crystals fell. Hathaway gently waved her hand, and the soul crystals on the ground flew directly into her hand. After casually putting away the soul crystals, the two of them continued to move forward. The basement of the wizard tower was dark. This place had been corroded by the power of the abomination. The two of them arrived at the third floor of the basement. According to the markings on the map, they quickly found the passage that led to the seal. At this moment, the two of them suddenly heard a strange crying sound. Sulen stopped in his tracks. Abomination. He's right here. Lightning flashed on Sulen's body, and his eyes looked into the depths of the passage. Although Sulen had not studied the abominations, he knew that their power was strong and strange. Ordinary legendary wizards could only play a supporting role when facing them. If one really wanted to wrestle with the abominations, one would have to at least reach the level of an astral wizard. The abominations seemed to have sensed their arrival. The strange crying sound became more and more obvious. The gray fog was tumbling, and they could clearly see that there were countless undead howling in it. Hide behind me. Sulen grabbed Hathaway with one hand and pulled her behind him. After saying that, a strong power of lightning quickly gathered from his body. The entire space could feel the sudden increase of the surrounding electrostatic force field. Then, dazzling lightning tore through the darkness and completely dispersed the layer of fog. The power of lightning continued to gather. The power of lightning on Sulen's body was completely opposite to the negative energy. At this moment, Sulen completely detonated the power of lightning. Endless power of lightning exploded at this moment, and the entire space was as bright as day. Countless lightning snakes moved back and forth in the air. The surrounding fog tumbled violently as if it was boiling. The ghosts and undead creatures hiding in the fog screamed, and their bodies melted quickly. Suddenly, a large number of soul crystals fell to the ground. The surrounding fog dissipated completely. At this moment, they could clearly feel a hexagram rune array. Silver chains entangled back and forth, firmly locking the center of the altar. At this moment, Sulen finally saw the monster in the seal clearly. Be careful, Sulen. It was born from the corpse of an ancient god. Sulen looked at the monster in the seal in front of him. This was a completely distorted human figure. It looked extremely strange. Its limbs were excessively long, and its head was very large. There were wrinkles on it, and it looked very ugly. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth, and its lower body was connected to a huge corpse. After seeing Sulen and Garen, the monster let out a sharp cry. Then, a spatial force suddenly appeared. The teleportation light flashed, and a Baylor appeared in front of them. Baylor Demon. Challenge rating 18+, the Baylor Demon was burning with endless flames. As soon as it appeared, it let out a roar. Then, Zhou Zhong's whip whipped toward Sulen. Sulen waved his storm war halberd and directly flicked the whip away. Just as Sulen was about to go forward, Hathaway's voice suddenly sounded in his mind, Sulen, wait. I've prepared to stop time. Later, take the opportunity to kill the Baylor Demon. Okay. Sulen agreed without thinking. Hathaway gently waved her staff, and an invisible force quickly gathered. Then, a powerful magic instantly burst out. Time stop, legendary spell. Chapter 550. The entire world seemed to have been paused at this moment. Everything froze at this moment, motionless, like a photo that had been frozen. Time stop has been successfully activated. It lasted for 10 seconds. Su Luan only felt a strange force sweeping over him, and then everything around him became still in an instant. Do it. Hathaway's voice sounded from the bottom of his heart. Thunder Realm. Infinite power of thunder and lightning gushed out of Sulen's body in an instant. In the next second, Sullen's figure appeared beside the Baler in an instant. Weakness detection. Thunder slash. The light blue power of thunder and lightning flashed through the air. The Baler that had just been summoned to the material plane was motionless. It was like a statue within the range of the time-stop spell. The storm battle halberd carried light blue thunder and swept across in an instant, directly splitting the Baler into two. However, the effect of the time-stop spell did not appear. At the same time, after casting the time-stop spell, Hathaway quickly cast the next spell with the power of the mystery lock. Summon Elemental Legion, Dimensional Summoning Gate plus Summon Fire Elemental Elder, maximum spell. A space gate opened, and scorching flames rushed out of the dimensional gate. The temperature of the entire basement soared by dozens of degrees in an instant. This was a teleportation gate leading to the fire elemental plane. After the teleportation gate opened, an angry roar was heard, followed by a flash of fire. A group of tall fire elementals walked out of the space gate. Summon Elemental Legion was a legendary spell. After casting, it could summon an elemental elder and several or more giant fire elementals. Casting 2 legendary spells in a row was also a great burden for Hathaway. Fortunately, after mastering the mystery lock, Su Len had re-injected enough energy into the mystery lock. With the power of the mystery lock, Hathaway could cast the spell easily. Time stop did not really stop time. In fact, this spell changed the flow of time in an area, making the surrounding time flow extremely slow. It looked like it had stopped, but Hathaway and Su Len were not affected. Of course, although the effect of this spell was powerful, it also had its own flaw, which was that it was ineffective against gods. Therefore, those who wanted to rely on time stop to kill gods would die miserably. A breeze blew, and the effect of time stop disappeared. A thin blood mark appeared on the body of the Baler in an instant. The blood mark continued to expand and finally split into two. The Baler's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, and then it lost control of its body. Burning explosion. A dazzling flame suddenly rose from the Baler's corpse, which had been cut in two. The next second, a powerful explosion sounded. In the midst of this explosion, a pale gray soul let out an angry roar and was about to teleport back to the abyss. However, before the teleportation could be activated, a dimensional anchor instantly struck the soul, and the teleportation light was instantly interrupted. Immediately after, another light flew by. Soul Binding Spell, a magic gem to pull the Baler's twos to the soul to pull twos to us when the effect of time stop disappeared. In the dimensional gate opened by Hathaway, a fanatical giant fire elemental and fire elemental elder appeared in this underground space. It was not easy to kill an abomination. In the multiverse, although abominations were powerful and hated all living creatures, their strongest point was their almost immortal vitality. Although abominations were not as powerful as gods, for some reason, they were more destructive. In the era of the Arcane Empire, there was a special proposition on how to kill an abomination, god, ancient evil. As soon as this topic appeared, it was studied by many arcanists. After all, the great arcanists who liked to court death had done such things in the past. In theory, the easiest way to kill an abomination was to use the power of the god of death. The power of the god of death represented the end of all living creatures. For others, abominations might be difficult to kill, but the god of death was an exception. Unfortunately, the power of the god of death was not something that anyone could master. If one mastered the divinity of death or had the artifact of the god of death, one could also kill an abomination. However, these two things could not be obtained. Without these two things, it would be very difficult to kill an abomination. Like gods, abominations had divine shields. Although they were not as powerful as gods, they were still able to withstand several legendary spells at once. Moreover, as long as the divine shields were not broken once, the divine shields would always be repaired. Therefore, after a lot of calculations, the arcanists came to a conclusion. That was, they had to use saturation attacks in a very short time to let the divine shields reach the critical point and break them. In order to meet this requirement, Hathaway deliberately summoned the elemental army and wanted to use this method to kill the abomination. A world without flames is too sad. Burn, let the flames ignite the whole world. After the fire elemental elder arrived, it was immediately full of dissatisfaction with the surrounding environment. All fire elemental were arsonists. For them, flames were beauty, flames were everything, and they would ignite everything they saw. With the help of the summoning contract, Hathaway directly ordered the fire elemental to attack the abomination with her powerful mental strength. At the same time, Su Len, who had activated the thunder domain, also rushed forward. Because of the seal, the abomination had been sealed there and could not move at all. Moreover, under the seal for thousands of years, its strength had dropped to the bottom. Now was the best time to kill it. Endless flames continued to explode. The fire elemental elders were forcibly suppressed by Hathaway and could only vent their anger on the abomination. As a legendary creature and an elemental life form, the fire elemental elder had all kinds of fire abilities. In addition, there was a group of giant fire elemental elders that were one level lower than him. The destructive power of these arsonists was very shocking. At the same time, Su Len did not hold back either. The powerful power of thunder and lightning kept flashing, and the storm halberd in Sullen's hand was swung like a windmill, constantly attacking. Ripples kept appearing on the divine shields like water waves. The abomination screamed, and a shock wave instantly rushed toward Su Len. The space around Su Len was shrouded by countless thunder and lightning. Then, a big net that seemed to be made of thunder and lightning appeared, and it shone with a dazzling light. The thunder domain instantly appeared under the impact of the divine powers. The divine powers that were full of evil and destruction completely disappeared under the countless thunder and lightning. Chapter 551. Heat waves kept surging, and flames kept spreading to the surroundings. The abomination's divine power shield was also on the verge of collapsing. After all, the abomination was not a god, and it did not have the almost endless divine power of the god kingdom as a shield. Thunder slash. The storm battle halberd carried the terrifying power of thunder and lightning and smashed down on the divine power shield. Boom! The power of thunder and lightning and the divine power surged, and countless bolts of lightning burst out in an instant. The entire underground space trembled slightly. The divine power shield, which was already close to its limit, finally could not withstand Sullen's all-out attack. The divine power shield shattered at this moment. Life. Destruction. Kill him, the abomination's chaotic consciousness kept whispering. In the face of Sullen's attack, it did not retreat at all. Its hatred for the living and its chaotic and crazy consciousness made it attack all living things in a frenzy. They longed for destruction, and the purpose of their existence was to destroy everything. The thunder territory kept making crackling sounds. This was Sullen's territory and the abomination's territory fighting fiercely. Waves of pollution kept attacking, and as this power spread, Su Len clearly felt a chill run down his spine. His life force was slowly draining away. At this moment, a status appeared on his system panel. He was being eroded by the pollution territory, and his life force was continuously decreasing. If he did not deal with it, this speed of life force loss could quickly drain an ordinary person. Be careful. Hathaway's voice suddenly sounded. Lightning flashed, and Sullen's figure disappeared in an instant. At the same time, where Su Len had been standing, a sharp spike suddenly pierced out from the ground. Looking at the 1-meter-long spike, Su Len was terrified. If he was stabbed by this thing, his butthole would explode. A sharp claw pierced through the void. In the next second, the space behind Su Len cracked open, and the claw scratched at his back. It was as if Su Luen had an eye in the back of his head. The storm halberd didn't even bother to look at it. It instantly blocked the claw, and the power of thunder and lightning erupted, completely purifying the evil power on the claw. The abomination roared in pain. Its tone was sharp, and a strange whisper rang out in Sullen's mind. This voice was filled with hatred, unwillingness, madness, and brutality. It made one feel irritable and wanted to destroy everything. This was a power that abominations were born with. These gods, who were born in death and died before they were born, were a curse to all the living. They hated everything in this world. A deformed human monster was frantically struggling to break free from the sealing chains on its body. Silver rune chains were deeply integrated into its flesh. His crazy eyes stared at Su Len, and then another divine power attack followed. Bang! Dazzling lightning burst out, and the power of lightning around Sullen's body kept colliding and dissipating. He couldn't help but step back. At the same time, a sharp claw scratched at his head. Sullen's body flashed with lightning, and he disappeared instantly. At the same time, the surrounding fire elemental elders led many giant fire elementals to attack the abomination crazily. These fire elemental creatures didn't have vital points, and they couldn't dodge the attacks of the abomination. They attacked directly. Under the attacks of the abomination, the energy shield on the surface of Sullen's and Hathaway's bodies kept shattering. Only half of the summoned fire elementals were left. However, the crazy fire elementals didn't care about this at all. Fire elementals were summoned elemental creatures. After they died, they would be resurrected in the fire elemental plane. Devour divinity. The twisted abomination monster suddenly turned into a gray python and pounced on Su Len, trying to swallow him completely. The divinity on Sullen's body was very attractive to it. Thunder Spear. The blue power of lightning gathered in Sullen's hand, and a spear made completely of lightning appeared. In the next second, lightning flashed, and the entire underground space was lit up. The thunder spear hit the gray python with the sound of wind and thunder. The gray python was nailed to the ground in an instant. Endless power of lightning exploded at this moment, and the evil power that formed the gray python was purified instantly. The gray python disappeared completely in the lightning. The gray evil power turned into threads and was absorbed by the abomination again. Even so, it wasn't easy to bear. Rumble. As the ground trembled, the abominations became more and more berserk. Not being able to kill Su Luen made them feel very berserk, and the abominations became more and more dangerous. Apart from their own power, they could also use their divine power. The berserk abominations instantly revealed sharp claws and continuously attacked Su Luen. It had the power to control space. Space cracks kept opening, and any part of Sullen's body could be attacked by the abomination. This space ability was very disgusting. Although it was trapped and couldn't move, it could attack the surroundings continuously through these spaces. The target was small and fast, and there was almost no warning. If Su Len hadn't awakened the sixth sense talent, which gave him the ability to predict danger in advance, he would have been caught by the abomination. Although there would be some space fluctuations when space spells were used, the time was too short. Hathaway wanted to use space imprisonment, but it was torn apart by the abomination. The abomination could only tear a small space crack each time, but Hathaway's space imprisonment needed to cover a large area. It was a waste of effort to break the surface. The ferocious claws kept attacking, and Sullen's storm battle halberd danced quickly to counterattack. Dark devouring claw. The sharp claws were mixed with strong evil power. However, the target wasn't Su Len, but Hathaway, who had been hiding behind. Dodge. Sullen's body flashed, and the storm battle halberd was waved quickly. Hathaway didn't panic at all in the face of the abomination's attack. Her body flashed, and she disappeared instantly. At the same time, a frightening elemental wave appeared. Hathaway's body appeared on the other side of the abomination, and a gray magic ball with strong elemental waves flew out instantly. Annihilation magic ball. Boom. Roar. The abomination roared in pain, and the annihilation magic ball melted a part of its body. Drops of black blood splattered on the ground. After the attack worked, Hathaway didn't chase after it. Her body flashed and disappeared instantly. The moment she disappeared, a sharp bone spur pierced out from the ground. Thunder slash. Su Len waved the storm battle halberd and appeared around the abomination. Then, he slashed at the abomination's body. Slash. The sharp halberd cut a hideous wound on the abomination's body. Chapter 552. The earth trembled. The shockwaves from the battle between Su Len and the abomination kept coming. If it weren't for the fact that the area where the abomination was sealed was a special half-plane, the entire wizard tower might have collapsed. Even so, there were still continuous vibrations. On the astrology platform, Alex and Karina were looking at the screen projected by the tower spirit in the hall. It was the scene of the battle between Su Len and the abomination. However, Su Len was moving too fast on the screen, so the two couldn't see the battle clearly. They could only determine Sullen's position through the flashing lightning in the air. The fire in the projected image was gradually extinguished. There weren't many fire elements summoned by Hathaway left. The battle was getting more and more intense. Although Su Len would hurt the abomination to a certain extent every time he attacked, the abomination could recover quickly by relying on the god's corpse that had merged with him. What should we do? Can Surin and Hathaway win? Looking at the picture in front of her, Karina asked Alex with some uncertainty. Alex, who was eating sunflower seeds with relish, came back to her senses. She stared at Karina with her eyes wide open and said with uncertainty, Su Len should be able to win. If he wasn't confident, Su Len would have told us to retreat. If they couldn't win, they should run. This was what Su Len told them. If they met an enemy who was stronger than them, they should never fight head-on. There was no shame in running if they couldn't win. It was okay even if they suffered some losses. They just had to get back at the enemy in the future. This level of battle wasn't something that the two of them could interfere with. Therefore, even if they were anxious, they couldn't do anything. If an enemy below the legendary level entered the battlefield, they probably wouldn't even be able to withstand a single attack from the abomination. Rumble. The shockwaves from the battle came, and even the wizard tower shook slightly. The abomination became even crazier. Sullen's attack just now had made it feel intense pain. As an abomination that was born from the corpse of an ancient god and was later trapped in this place for thousands of years, the anger in its heart had made its consciousness extremely chaotic. The abomination released all the resentment that it had accumulated for thousands of years on Su Len. It could be said that it would fight Su Len to the death. Boom! A blast of divine power hit Su Len in an instant. The energy shield around Su Len could no longer withstand it and shattered with a bang. It turned into specks of light and disappeared. A bolt of lightning flashed across Sullen's body, and he disappeared instantly. Great disintegration. A green spell instantly shot towards the abomination, and the body that was hit instantly turned into powder. The abomination howled in pain, and its dark and crazy eyes instantly stared at Hathaway. Then it let out a roar, and a sound wave more powerful than Sullen's war roar burst out. At this moment, Su Len felt his mind go blank, but with his strong constitution, he recovered in an instant. However, the abomination took advantage of this opportunity to attack him again. In just a moment, the abomination's sharp claws had already appeared in front of him. Rip! There was no time to dodge, and Sullen's arm was instantly cut open. The intense pain made Su Len counterattack instantly. The storm halberd tore through the air, and with infinite lightning, it instantly slashed the abomination's arm. The sharp halberd cut through the abomination's skin and along its muscles. The power of lightning also burst out at this moment. Under Sullen's great strength, the abomination's arm was directly cut off from the forearm. At the same time, Hathaway, who was further away, felt as if her heart had been hit hard. Her whole body stiffened, and her body entered a state of shock at this moment. At the same time, a spatial crack suddenly appeared above her head, and the abomination's sharp claws suddenly attacked. The sudden attack made it impossible for Su Len to help. Hathaway was about to be hit. As a sorcerer, Hathaway's physical fitness was far inferior to Sullen's. If she was hit, she would be seriously injured even if she did not die. However, as a sorcerer and a legendary sorcerer, Hathaway had many ways to save her life. Almost at the moment when the abomination attacked, rays of magic light appeared on her body. Greater chain accident activated. Spell sequence activated. Spell activated. Activate greater teleportation. Activate greater energy barrier. Activate greater deflection field. Activate annihilation ball. Activate spell order, shock. As a sorcerer, Hathaway was very clear about her own weaknesses. Therefore, she set the condition for triggering the accident spell to be controlled. No matter if it was stun, shock, or immobilize, the greater chain accident spell would be triggered automatically. The abomination's attack was indeed unexpected. Hathaway was shocked by the enemy at that moment and lost control of her body. This situation was just in line with the accident spell that Hathaway had set. A series of light flashed, and Hathaway's figure instantly disappeared, just in time to dodge the abomination's attack. She also automatically counterattacked. The annihilation ball instantly hit the abomination's claws. The claws seemed to be soaked in sulfuric acid and quickly melted like a burning candle. The abominations had many strange and powerful abilities. They had divinity and many attacks. Even Sullen's physical fitness could not be completely immune to them, let alone Hathaway. Fortunately, Hathaway had practiced this situation in the battle simulation. The spell sequence on her sorcerer's robe was prepared for this situation. When Hathaway reappeared, the abomination immediately captured her position. This was not difficult. After all, the space here was not too big. The abomination's power could cover the entire area. Then, the abomination launched another attack at Hathaway. Sharp bone spurs instantly pierced out of the ground. Crack. With a soft sound, the energy barrier around Hathaway's body broke in an instant. However, Hessie had already regained consciousness and regained control of her body. The staff in her hand flashed slightly, and then the space around Hathaway instantly became distorted. Chaotic space. The abomination's bone spurs, which attacked by tearing the space apart, brushed past Hathaway and did not cause any damage to her. Sword of Annihilation. A light flashed, and a strange longsword instantly appeared in Hathaway's hand. In the next second, the long sword was swung, and the abomination's bone spurs were directly cut in half. Sullen's reaction was very fast. Just as Hathaway was casting the spell, a thunder spear appeared in his hand. Lightning flashed and instantly hit the abomination's body. The powerful thunder power exploded, and the abomination's body trembled at this moment. It's finally paralyzed. After seeing the effect, Su Luan cursed inwardly. All this time, his lightning power had been invincible in battle. His super high paralysis effect had been effective time and time again. However, this time, when facing an abomination, his lightning power's paralysis effect was reduced to the bottom. Chapter 553. The power of thunder and lightning was one of the most powerful forces that Su Luan had mastered. It had always been destructive and had a very high chance of paralysis. Even the enemies of the legendary rank would be restrained in all aspects when facing it. It ignored most of the test of fortitude and paralyzed the enemy. Basically, all creatures of the legendary rank and above had varying degrees of resistance, especially warrior classes. Their resistance to control effects was even higher. Giant dragons' strong bodies allowed them to be immune to 80% of the control effects. As for ancient evils, their immunity was even higher. These monsters had a high chance of being paralyzed by Sullen's power of thunder. However, when facing the abomination, the paralysis effect of Sullen's power of thunder was reduced to the lowest. A strange power weakened the effect of Sullen's power of thunder. This way, the ceiling effect of Sullen's power of thunder was not ideal. Of course, if the power of thunder's paralysis effect was not good, the other control effects would be even weaker. Hathaway's order, shock, was directly immune to it. At this point in the battle, Su Len had a headache. The abomination's recovery ability was too strong. It was connected to the god's corpse and could continuously draw power from the god's corpse to recover. In addition to its own recovery ability, it was too difficult to kill it. If only Chris was here. As a legendary succubus, with her damage output, this abomination would not be able to withstand it. Su Len thought to himself. Suddenly, a beam of light descended from the sky. Immediately after, a tall figure emerged from the beam of light. The figure's silvery white body exuded a chilling aura. Its tall figure exuded an oppressive aura, and its sharp twin blades gave off a chilling sensation. To Su Luan's surprise, the guardian magic statue appeared on the battlefield. Activating battlefield communication, mental link established, guardian golem activated, transferring battle command authority, enigma suppression ability activated, tower master, battle preparations are ready. Please give the battle order. The cold mechanical voice of the tower genie sounded in Su Len and Hathaway's hearts. At the same time, Alex and Karina's voices sounded in their hearts. Su Len, do your best. We've already blessed the guardian golem with spells, so we can start the battle immediately. Yes, we must kill that monster. Don't worry, we'll definitely destroy it this time. Su Len said proudly when he saw the guardian golem in front of him. The guardian golem had fought with Su Len for a long time. Even if it was slightly weaker than Su Len, it still had the combat power of a high-level legendary mage. With the addition of the guardian golem, its combat power had completely met the requirements. Activating elemental fission shield. Chi raising chop activated. Weakness detection activated. Silver sacred sword, legendary, charging. Armor break effect activated. Sharpness effect activated. Greater haste activated. Along with the tower genie's cold voice, the guardian golem instantly went all out. Summon the undead army. Gusts of chilly winds suddenly blew, and the surrounding fog quickly gathered. Hazy shadows appeared one after another. These vengeful spirits that had been awakened by the abomination emitted a strong aura of death. As soon as they appeared, they pounced on Su Len. Summon evil creatures. A portal appeared, and in the next second, various twisted and ugly monsters appeared. A black mass of monsters surged out from the dimensional portal. Twisted shadows, mutated monsters, petrified lizards, spiked lions, and so on. After sensing danger, the abomination immediately summoned an army of monsters. These monsters in front of him instantly crowded the surrounding space. There were so many of them that they could even fight a medium-sized war. After seeing this situation, Su Len did not care at all. To be honest, although the number of monsters and undead summoned by the abomination this time was large, their quality was too poor. One must know that he used to be invincible on the battlefield. The army of monsters in front of him was completely insignificant. The guardian golem's tall figure rushed up directly, and its two demon slayer blades were invincible. None of the monsters were a match for it. Wherever it passed, it was like cutting chives. Su Len took out an exquisite flag, and the enormous power of thunder and lightning in his body exploded instantly. Infinite power of thunder and lightning gathered in this space, and in the next second, countless thunderbolts exploded instantly. Lightning storm. A strong power of thunder and lightning rose from Su Len's body. The storm and lightning enveloped the entire space, and countless thunderbolts slithered around like thunder snakes. The originally crazy monsters seemed to be shocked by the scene in front of them. At this time, Su Len looked like the legendary thunder god. Countless thunderbolts appeared under his control, and in the next second, thousands of thunderbolts exploded instantly. The entire world was filled with the sound of thunder and lightning, and for a time, screams could be heard one after another. After activating the thunder domain and borrowing the power of the wind dragon flag, Su Len once again performed the lightning storm. Although the power of the lightning storm was somewhat weakened because it was in an underground environment and could not borrow the weather, the area of the lightning storm was not very large. As a result, the range of the lightning storm was smaller, and the thunderbolts were more concentrated. The lightning storm enveloped the entire space, and all the monsters had nowhere to hide. Even the abominations could only take this attack head-on. Thunderbolts raged in the underground world, and the summoned undead army had no place to hide under such a saturated attack. The power of thunder and lightning was more harmful to the undead creatures. In just a breath's time, a large number of undead creatures were directly purified by the thunder and lightning. After the lightning storm lasted for more than 10 seconds, all the summoned monsters were wiped out. The ground was filled with corpses that had been electrocuted into talking corpses. Even the abomination had many wounds on its body, but with its powerful recovery ability, these wounds were quickly healed. The power of thunder and lightning dissipated, and a tall figure quickly rushed over. With a flash of cold light, the sharp claws that had just grown out of the abomination were cut off again. The guardian golem, which had been strengthened by the weakness attack, kept attacking the abomination. Facing this kind of golem puppet that could not be controlled, had thick skin, and was immune to all kinds of negative statuses, the abomination did not have a good way to deal with it. Sulen put away the wind dragon flag. He had consumed a lot of energy just now, but in the thunder domain, his recovery speed was very fast. With a flash of thunder and lightning, Sulen appeared in front of the abomination with the storm halberd in his hand. The human and the golem were like butterflies flying through flowers, constantly attacking the abomination rapidly. Many wounds appeared, and the abomination roared angrily and attacked crazily, but its counterattack was getting weaker and weaker. Chapter 554. Sulen and the guardian magic statue attacked quickly. The man and the magic statue were like the most brilliant surgeons, cutting the abomination quickly. A large number of wounds quickly appeared on the abomination's body. Under their crazy attacks, the abomination was completely passive. In the battle just now, Sulen discovered a weakness of the abomination that was not a weakness. When Sulen and the rest's attacks exceeded the abomination's recovery speed, the abomination would stop attacking and enter a defensive state, increasing its recovery speed. At this time, the abomination would not take the initiative to attack. Although it could not kill the abomination, it could delay its movements. After discovering this rule, Sulen had already thought of a way to deal with it. The storm halberd was waved quickly, and the magic slaying blade swept across. The abomination's body was now full of holes. Great disintegration spell. A green light flew out from Hathaway's magic staff and hit the abomination's body instantly. The area dissipated like sand. The abomination's recovery ability was suppressed, and its aura became weaker and weaker. Its recovery speed also became slower. After seeing this, Hathaway immediately waved her magic staff and started to cast a spell. Soul Banishment. Rays of silver-white light appeared, and countless runes quickly gathered and merged. Finally, they turned into silver-white chains that pierced the abomination's body instantly. These chains pierced through the abomination's body. Then, as it roared crazily, Hathaway began to slowly drag the abomination's soul out of its body. However, as an abomination, even if Sulen and the guardian magic statue worked together to severely injure it to the brink of death, it was still very difficult to drag its soul out. As Hathaway's magic power continued to deplete, soul shadows were drawn out one by one, wailing. However, these were not the real souls of the abomination. These wailing souls were just pitiful people who had been devoured by the abomination. They were used as consumables by the abomination to resist Hathaway's soul banishment. Damn it! Why are there so many souls? Didn't you say that he was sealed in here? Many souls flew out of the abomination's body, but his soul still didn't appear. Sulen couldn't help but curse. Throwing out a large number of magical gemstones, Sulen casually cast a soul-trapping spell to guide these souls into the gemstones. Seeing that Hathaway and the abomination were in a tug-of-war, Sulen instantly released countless lightning bolts. These lightning bolts quickly gathered in mid-air, and in the blink of an eye, 9 purple chains that were shining with lightning appeared. Thunder Prison. 9 purple lightning chains instantly pierced through the abomination's body. Together with Hathaway, they tried to drag the abomination's soul out. Astral Projection. A golden light suddenly rose from Hathaway's body. In the next second, a translucent figure that looked exactly like Hathaway walked out of her body. The silver soul had a hazy shadow. This was the form of her soul. Countless inscriptions were engraved on her soul. This was the power that Hathaway had added to herself. After activating the astral projection, Hathaway's power increased greatly. The silver chains dragged even harder. Soon, under the combined efforts of Sulen and Hathaway, a dark, twisted, ferocious, and indescribable soul was dragged out of the abomination's body. This wasn't a complete soul in human form. Instead, it was a terrifying soul that was pieced together by countless soul fragments. It looked terrifying and ferocious. The evil energy in the surroundings quickly became denser. An extremely crazy and hateful consciousness began to attack Sullen's mind. He struggled, roared, and tried to escape frantically. He resisted the pulling power of the silver chains and the purple lightning chains. However, it was obvious that the abomination had already lost in this tug-of-war. The abomination struggled frantically, but his soul was still being dragged out bit by bit. What a terrifying monster! Sulen could feel the abomination's desire to destroy everything in front of him. He couldn't help but be shocked. Sulen pulled the lightning chains and bound the abomination's soul tightly. Then, endless lightning burst out from his body. "It's time to end this," Sulen shouted. He raised the storm halberd in his right hand and slashed at the abomination's soul. As a dazzling lightning flashed, the abomination's soul was cut in half. The abomination's soul was cut in half, but it still didn't die. However, its struggle became much weaker. Sulen and Hathaway easily dragged the two parts of the abomination's soul over. Although the soul had been pulled out, the abomination still didn't die. It was very difficult to kill a monster of this level. Even if the physical body was killed, as long as the soul escaped, it would be resurrected soon. Sulen wouldn't make such a mistake. Soul suppressor. Hathaway chanted an ancient spell. Her huge soul was like a giant. The silver rune chain emitted a dazzling light and pulled half of the abomination's soul into a high-quality magical gemstone bit by bit. Sulen also took out a high-quality magical gemstone and sealed the other half of the soul. As if sensing danger, the abomination's soul struggled and roared madly, trying to break free. However, at this moment, the abomination was too weak to change the situation. In the end, the soul was split into two and was completely sealed in the gemstone as it screamed. The lightning chains shrunk instantly and appeared on the surface of the gemstone like strange patterns. The moment the abomination's soul was sealed in the gemstone, the originally pure gemstone became pitch black. At the same time, it emitted an evil and blasphemous spiritual light. The entire gemstone looked very evil. It had been turned into an evil gemstone by the abomination's soul. If this gemstone fell into the hands of an ordinary person, they would be affected by the abomination's soul and fall into darkness. In the end, they would become the carrier of the abomination's resurrection. Sulen heaved a sigh of relief. He flipped his palm and put the gemstone into his storage space. Although this gemstone was very dangerous, it was also very precious. It contained a lot of divinity. Hathaway's huge figure waved her hand gently, and a spiritual light rose. Demon sealing formation. Runes danced and instantly sealed the gemstone that was emitting evil spiritual energy. Apart from looking a little black, this gemstone looked like an ordinary gemstone. Then, her soul turned into a spiritual light and returned to her body. As the soul was sealed, the abomination's body collapsed. Its power was quickly drained. After a few breaths, the abomination's body deteriorated rapidly. In the end, it became like a dried-up rotten wood. Chapter 555. The lightning dissipated, and the entire space became clear. Although Sulen did not carefully check how much divinity there was in the abomination's soul, it was definitely more than the divinity crystals he had obtained before. However, it would take a long time to extract the divinity and use it. This was also the method he used to kill the abomination. Sulen did not have the power of death, so he could only rely on this method slowly. After the battle ended, Sulen let out a long sigh of relief. There were more spoils of war on the battlefield, and the most important one was the corpse of the ancient god. Although an abomination was born from this corpse, the corpse still had extraordinary benefits. The abomination did not inherit all the divinity in the corpse, so there was still a lot of divinity left in the corpse. In addition to the divinity, there were also a large number of mid-level and low-level soul crystals obtained from killing many undead, which could provide raw materials for the golem factory. The corpse of the ancient god was huge. It was dozens of meters long, lying on the ground. One could imagine how tall it had been when it was alive. Even the tallest cloud giant in the material world was only close to its knees in front of it. This was a male god, and the corpse was somewhat broken. There was a hideous wound on the head and the heart of the corpse. It was obvious that this was the fatal wound that killed this god. It would be very troublesome to transport such a huge corpse out directly. Moreover, this kind of corpse was full of divinity. Once the news leaked, it would definitely be a disaster. By then, not to mention the legendary masters in the material world, even the gods would not be able to help but send their avatars to fight for it. By then, it was likely to cause a disaster like the time of troubles. After Sulen checked that there was no problem with the corpse, he added another layer of seal. After the abomination's soul was sealed, the corpse was directly separated from the corpse. After a final inspection and cleaning, Sulen and Hathaway were relieved. After sealing the space again, Sulen and Hathaway returned to the wizard tower with the guardian golem. Alex, Karina, I'll leave the rest to you. Hathaway and I need to rest first. If there's nothing important, don't disturb me. After saying that, Sulen directly found a room on the astrology platform and walked in. After getting rid of the abomination that was a ticking time bomb, the entire sorcerer tower could finally relax. Without the threat of the abomination, the restoration of the sorcerer's tower was on the right track. The wizard tower had been sealed off for thousands of years, and many parts of it had been damaged. The repair work was tedious, but the good thing was that the core area wasn't damaged. Alex and Karina could do the job. Sulen came to a room and waved his hand casually. A gust of wind blew through the room and cleared all the dust. Then, he closed the door and began to check his harvest. After the battle, Sulen did not pay attention to the system notification. He only had time to check it now. The battle is over. Congratulations, host. You have successfully killed an abomination. You have received 573,000 experience points. You have received God's Bone X1. Congratulations, host. You have successfully killed an abomination. You have received a diamond treasure chest X5. You have received 1 legendary skill point. Congratulations, host. You have received an epic victory. Battle of the Abomination, Legendary Battle, May 1689 of the Huiwa calendar. A large number of mutated monsters appeared in your territory. In the process of investigating the cause, you found an ancient ruin. In the process of exploring the ruin, you learned that this ruin was used to suppress an abomination. At this time, as the seal was damaged, the supply of elemental energy was insufficient, and this abomination was about to break free. In order to prevent Northtown City from being destroyed, you finally decided to kill the abomination with Hathaway. In the 3rd floor of the Sorcerer Tower, in a strange space, you successfully killed the abomination with the help of Hathaway and the Tower Genie. With your return, this news will gradually spread, and your name will begin to spread across the continent. Sulen's prestige was now very high. If the entire continent was divided according to the arcane card game, Sulen alone would be a purple legendary card, and he also had a red faction card, Florence and Northwind Principality, as well as many follower cards. If he revealed all of his strength, Sulen's card would probably become an SSR Gold Godly card. Congratulations, host. Your experience points are full. You have leveled up. You are now level 31. You have received 2 free attribute points, 2 skill points, and 2 diamond treasure chests. Opening the system's storage space, Su Luan saw 7 diamond treasure chests neatly placed in the storage space. Seeing this, Su Luan felt envious. After a long time, Su Luan finally calmed down and summoned a water ball. Su Luan carefully washed himself and then prepared to open the chests. Su Len opened the storage and took a deep breath. In the next second, he chose to open all the treasure chests. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item 9 transformations golden pill *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item nature crystal *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item advanced legendary soul crystal *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item God's Blood *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item Time Orb *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item Hero Recruitment *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item Arcane Mechanics. The brilliance dissipated, and Su Len could not wait to take out the items to have a look. Su Len had already obtained 2 bottles of 9 transformations golden pill. He put them away immediately. He had also obtained the nature crystal. It was just nice that he could give it to the nature oak. This was also very beneficial to Xanthi. However, Xanthi was currently unable to absorb this energy. The advanced legendary soul crystal was a good item. This was an important material for creating advanced tower genie and advanced legendary golems. Next, Su Len picked up a crystal bottle and examined it. This was a red bottle of viscous liquid with a golden glow. It was God's blood. As the crystal bottle shook, a faint golden glow rippled out. Su Len used appraisal to appraise it. This was a bottle of God's blood. It could be used to create magic potions or create divine artifacts. It was very precious. Su Len immediately put the crystal bottle away. The time orb was a light blue pearl. It was about the size of a lychee. Its surface was as smooth as jade. After appraisal, it was actually a treasure that contained a trace of the law of time. Its effect was to reduce the difficulty of casting spells such as Time Stop. Unfortunately, Hathaway only knew Time Stop. She could not cast spells such as Time Reversal or Time Banishment. Chapter 556. In some ancient legends and myths, there was an ancient god called the Lord of Time and Space among the first ancient gods of order. However, he had never left any information, so arcanists had always doubted whether this ancient god really existed. In the multiverse, there were very few of his believers, but it was certain that those time dragons were the believers of this Lord of Time and Space. Wizards learned their space-time spells from the time dragons. Time dragons could be said to be masters of controlling time. They were born with the ability to control time. For example, they could cast spells like Time Stop at will. This was a very powerful legendary dragon species. They were also known as the chronological dragon, the epic dragon, or the eternal dragon. They rarely communicated with ordinary creatures. Time dragons like to travel in time and explore the past or the future. When they found a potentially dangerous war, they would not hesitate to use their ability to end the war as soon as possible. Time dragons were also the only dragon species that was truly immortal. This kind of dragon was also the only one that did not collect treasures. Instead, it collected ordinary sundials and strange mechanical clocks. According to data, there were only a dozen or so time dragons in the multiverse. It was said that many time dragons had left the Crystal Wall System universe. In the same Crystal Wall System universe, they would usually form groups of 4 to 10 for the purpose of reproduction. Once all the female dragons were pregnant, the group party would end, and then it was very likely that they would never see each other again. Some lucky arcanists were lucky enough to communicate with time dragons and then learn time spells from them. This was how the famous legendary spell Time Stop came to be. It was said that some arcanists studied and imitated the breath of time dragons to create spells. The breath of time dragons had two effects. One was to steal time. They could spit out the breath of time that wizards were immune to. It would directly steal time from the opponent, causing an irreversible and permanent aging effect. It was said that some of the breath of time dragons could easily turn a human from a baby to an old man. The second effect of the breath was to exile time. It was also unavoidable. Its effect was to directly throw the enemy out of time. The enemy would completely disappear and be unable to move until the effect of the breath disappeared and they were captured by time again. These two dragon breaths were very powerful. Time exile was a spell that imitated the time dragon's breath. However, the effect of this spell was far inferior to the time dragon's breath. Even so, this spell was very powerful, and very few people could master it. Now that he had the spacetime orb, a treasure that could be considered a divine artifact, he would need to search for and collect time-related spells in the future. Spacetime Pearl, a mystical pearl condensed from the power of spacetime. It contains a trace of the laws of time and space. Wearing this pearl will greatly reduce the difficulty of casting time spells. Moreover, the wearer will grasp a portion of the power of time. Effect: immune to slow. Immune to dimensional anchor and other positioning spells. Immunity time stop. Time control. The effects of time and space spells are increased by 100%. Casting difficulty is lowered by 1 spell rank. Time control. You have the power to control time in a small area, which allows you to move faster. With this spacetime orb, Hathaway's strength had increased by a large margin. The most obvious one was the time stop spell. The difficulty of casting it was directly reduced from the 9th circle to the 8th circle. Coupled with the effect of controlling time, it had reached the point of instant casting. If she could master other time-related spells, the role of this orb could be maximized. Sulan decided to give this spacetime orb to Hathaway to use. The last 2 items were left. One of them was a hero recruitment token. This thing looked very similar to the recruitment token he had obtained before, but there was an additional word, hero, on the token. After using appraisal, he found that this thing just solved his urgent need. Hero recruitment token, this is a promise from a hero. After using it, you can recruit 1 to 3 wandering heroes to join your command. Of course, you need to pay the hero's reward. Note, the user's identity will affect the quality of the recruited heroes. Sulan had decided to build Deepwater City some time ago and was ready to open up sea trade. Originally, he was worried about the lack of manpower and that there would be no one to manage Deepwater City. As for letting the nobles of the Kingdom of Florence manage it, Sulan did not trust them. Now that he had the hero recruitment token, this problem was solved. Sulan put away the hero recruitment token. He planned to use it when he returned to Northgard City. The last item was a book called Magic Mechanics. Sulan briefly flipped through it. This book recorded a lot of knowledge about magic mechanics. It was all-encompassing and had many applications. For example, it could be used to upgrade golems, the energy channel of wizard towers, the structure of buildings, and even the construction of floating space city needed a lot of knowledge. After putting away these things, Sulan began to check the rewards after this upgrade. After all his attributes had reached 50, if he wanted to increase his attributes, he would need 3 free attribute points to increase 1 attribute point. Sulan was not in a hurry to increase his attributes. His current attributes were already very high, so he did not lack 1 or 2 free attribute points. As for the 9 transformation golden pills, he was going to give some to the others. After all, Alex, Karina, Phyllis, Xanthi, and his 2 personal maids had not reached the legendary level. It would be better to give it to them. Sulan chose to use the 2 normal skill points he had obtained when learning spells. These skill points could speed up the learning of spells. As for the legendary skill point, Sulan planned to use it to upgrade his Iron Will talent. This talent was a little special and very useful. When fighting against high-level monsters, he would often encounter Iron Will. Just like a dragon, ordinary people did not even have the courage to stand beside it, let alone attack it. Iron will might seem useless, but it was indispensable. After using the legendary skill points to upgrade, Iron Will talent was upgraded to Advanced Iron Will. If he wanted to upgrade it to Legendary, he would need to use one more legendary skill point. In addition to these gains, Su Len also obtained a piece of God's bone. After using Identify, he found that it was a high-grade material. God's bone looked similar to bones, but it was made of jade. There was a trace of golden light on it, and it was very hard. It could be used to make high-grade magic items. It was a very precious material. Su Len wondered if he could try to make a divine item with the God's bone and God's blood. P.S. Read a book. The world enters the Age of Lords. Read it if you like. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.